You think you know yourself. You think you know the person you've become in a marriage. But then you meet someone from your past, and they hold up a mirror, and you see a stranger staring back. My husband changed after a work trip. Then, I discovered her therapist was an old friend who convinced her to cheat and ruined our marriage. I'm Carla, and I was married to a man I thought was my partner in every way. But I guess things weren't as perfect as I had thought. For the first few years of our marriage, everything was fine. My husband, whose name was, let's call him Jay, was a good man. A little predictable, a little boring, maybe, but he was always there for me. He was stable, dependable, and a good provider. We were comfortable, too comfortable, I guess. I had just come back from my company's annual work trip, which was designed to help us reconnect and build our bonds as a team. I was surprised when I came back from this trip feeling so different. I felt angry, and I didn't know why. I started picking fights with Jay over everything. A comment that would have made me laugh before now made me roll my eyes. I'd snap at him over nothing. My frustration was bubbling just beneath the surface, and I couldn't understand where it was coming from. It wasn't just the fighting. I also started to pull away from him. We used to have a date night ritual every week, but I started canceling them. I'd make up excuses about being too tired or having too much work to catch up on. I just didn't want to spend time with him. I missed the old me. The me who was vibrant and fun and didn't feel so stifled. Jay eventually came to me, asking if I was okay, if I was losing interest in him, or if there was someone else. I got so mad at him for even thinking that. I told him he was overthinking things, that I just needed to focus on myself. So he backed off and gave me the space I wanted. But it just made me feel even more distant from him. I started working longer hours and coming home late. I wasn't just avoiding him. I was actively trying to escape from our life together. The house we had built together, the life we had created, it just all felt so suffocating. Jay even suggested marriage counseling, but I told him I wanted to see a therapist alone. I had to fix myself first before I could fix us. I found a therapist and started seeing them 3 times a week. I didn't tell Jay about it. It was my thing, my space, my time to just be me. After a few sessions, I started to feel lighter, like a weight had been lifted. I was spending more time away from the house, just going out with friends, or meeting up with people I hadn't seen in a while. I even started going to bars and talking to random men. It was exhilarating. I had never done anything like that before. Jay's friends saw me, and they told him all about it. He came to me, looking hurt, and I just brushed it off. I told him I was just having fun and that it was no big deal. He didn't understand. I also started to change other things. I stopped doing my half of the housework. I told him I felt oppressed having to work at my job and then come home and work some more. He got upset and said we were a team, but I told him he needed to step up and take care of things. The more I pushed, the more Jay seemed to retreat into himself. He started doing all the chores, and I just felt nothing. I also started spreading rumors about him around the neighborhood. I told my friends that Jay was a toxic and controlling husband and that he had been holding me back for years. I said, that's why I started talking to other men. I told them I just needed to feel validated. I know it was a horrible thing to do, but in my mind, it made sense. He was the problem. Jay finally confronted me about it. He asked if it was true that I was talking about him this way. I didn't deny it. I just told him I was venting and that I was unhappy in our marriage. I told him that my therapist helped me see that our marriage was boring and that he was too predictable. His words were so hurtful, but I just didn't care. I told him I had grown, and he had stayed the same. He asked me what I wanted, and I told him the truth. I wanted an open marriage. I told him he didn't have to sleep with other people, but I wanted the freedom to do so without guilt. I wanted to rediscover myself while still being married to him. I was shocked when he told me he needed time to think about it. I spent the next 2 weeks living my life, not caring what Jay was doing. I went out, talked to men, and lived in my own little world. He was still doing all the chores and taking care of the house. I thought he was finally seeing things my way, But then he sat me down and told me he wanted a divorce. I was shocked. I didn't see it coming. I told him he was being oversensitive, that it was an unreasonable response. I couldn't understand why he wouldn't just give in and embrace the new lifestyle I was offering. He stayed calm, but I couldn't take it. I started yelling at him, blaming him for everything. I told him he was the problem, that he was the reason our marriage failed. But he just looked at me with this blank expression, and he told me to get out of his house. I was so mad. I threw stuff around the house. I even scratched his car. I didn't care. I just wanted to hurt him as much as he was hurting me. I moved out and started texting him insults. I spread rumors all over town, telling everyone he was a coward who refused to fight for our marriage. I just couldn't believe he had left me. I was the one who had been unhappy. I was the one who was supposed to leave, not him. It was all so unfair. I begged him to meet me. I told him I wanted to talk, and he agreed. Part of me hoped he would come around and take me back. But when we sat down, I doubled down. I told him that my therapist said he was the one who failed to live up to his promise, and that I'd take him back, but only if he agreed to an open marriage and let me quit my job. I thought he'd be so happy to have me back. He'd agree to anything. But he just laughed at me. He told me he had already filed for divorce, that there was nothing left for us. He was leaving. It was happening. And I couldn't believe it. I burst into tears. I couldn't believe it. He was really leaving me. It was over. I started crying and told him the truth. I had reconnected with an old high school friend named Elle. Elle was a self-proclaimed relationship expert on social media. She convinced me I was unhappy in my marriage, that Jay was holding me back. She told me to go out and live a little, that I had been too boring. She told me to flirt with my coworkers on my work trip. And I did. I had a makeout session with someone, and I told Elle all about it. She was so excited for me. She was the one who told me to go out to bars and flirt with men. She told me I deserved to be recognized and validated. She was the one who convinced me to ask for an open marriage. She told me I deserved freedom. But all of her advice had backfired, and now I was losing everything. I told Jay that I had made a mistake and that Elle's influence had clouded my judgment. I told him I was ready to go to real therapy and that I was willing to do whatever it took to fix our marriage. But he just looked at me, and he told me no. He said I had made my own decisions and that I had to deal with the consequences. I was shocked. I had told him everything, and he still wouldn't give me another chance. I kept begging, but he just stood up and left. He told me he was tired of trying to fix things with someone who was unwilling to compromise. He told me he was done. After that, I tried to get my life back, but it was so hard. Jay had cut me off completely. He wouldn't answer my calls or texts. I was alone. I had no one. And then Elle cut me off. See, too, I called her, but she wouldn't answer. She wouldn't respond to my texts. I had no one to vent to, no one to give me validation. I had lost everything. A few weeks later, I got a call from my mom. She told me that Jay had filed for divorce and that he had provided a lot of evidence against me. He had recordings of my outbursts, pictures of my car, and my text messages where I had been threatening him. He was making sure I couldn't get a single penny from him. I was shocked. I didn't think he would go that far. My mom told me he was getting a restraining order against me too, so I couldn't even talk to him anymore. I had lost him for good. I tried to reach out to Elle again. I went to her apartment and begged her to talk to me. I told her I had lost everything and that it was all because of her. But she just looked at me and said, "Honey, you have to take responsibility for your own actions. I'm a life coach, not a marriage counselor." She told me I had to learn from my mistakes and move on. She told me it was my fault, not hers, not Jay's, mine. And she slammed the door in my face. I stood there and I couldn't believe it. Everything I had done, all the lies, all the cheating, all the threats. It was all my fault. I had ruined my own life. I had lost my husband, my best friend, my family, and my home. And I had no one to blame but myself. The karma had come for me.